First season with multiple losses since 2020, and Lane Kiffin proves it here. He proves he can beat the big dogs. 28-10, Carson Beck with another pick. Things just not going his way. And for Georgia, they fall to 7-2, both losses coming in conference play, lost to Alabama and now to Ole Miss. Georgia goes to play Tennessee next Saturday. They host Tennessee. Ole Miss on the bye. And then they got Florida, and then they got Mississippi State. I mean, Ole Miss could be playing for an SEC title here. Oh, boy. All right, back here in studio, Emory, Hunt, Richard Johnson. How about that? How about that result here? Ole Miss 28-10. If I told you that was going to be the end result, you'd believe me?
Yes, because I had picked Ole Miss early in the week on our Sportsline Early Edge show, so I would not have been surprised.
You would not have been surprised Ole Miss won this game by 18 points.
Yes, I would have been surprised, Hakeem. But by 2 points, nah. But by 18 points, absolutely. Because what I thought in this game, guys, is it was fascinating to watch. This is the toughest I've seen Ole Miss play physically in Lane Kiffin's era. Both how they handled Georgia, how they handled Georgia's run game, how they handled Carson Beck. This team out-physicaled Georgia. That was the most surprising thing for me in this contest. I had never seen a Lane Kiffin-led Ole Miss team be this physical on both sides of the ball and also hold it down consistently throughout the game. Georgia had no shot after that first series because Ole Miss had it on their mind that this was not going to happen today.
Emory, you could argue this game should have been over at halftime. Georgia turned 3 Ole Miss drives into field goal drives with their good defense, or this could have been a serious laugher, truly. Georgia on offense gets Tate Ratledge back at right guard. They got him back last week. He's in the game here, but it did not look like it. Jared Ivey, J.J. Pegues, who did go out with an injury in this game, Princey Umenyumelin, like this defensive line that they put together, that they spent so much money on, that they grabbed from the transfer portal, 5 sacks. They were getting after Carson Beck. Obviously, the strip sack. I mean, they really were harrying and hurrying Carson Beck. This Georgia passing game has serious, serious issues. It is something that I have said all season that they miss Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers led this team in targets last year, only playing 10 games. There are no easy buttons in this Georgia passing attack. There are no easy buttons for Carson Beck, Emory. There's nothing simple for them on offense in the passing game. And they're not really getting much over the top with explosive plays. They are just really, really struggling.
I don't think I've ever seen Georgia get punched in the mouth and not have an answer. I thought they were shocked that Ole Miss really, you hit me. Like, what? And so for them to go and do that, and how about Austin Simmons? Because I thought this game was going to be over in the first drive when Dart went down. Simmons comes off the bench, Cole leads him right down the field for a touchdown drive, and that started the onslaught.
And you cannot say enough about Jackson Dart, by the way.
Right.
Jackson Dart comes back in this game off that leg injury. I mean, throughout the first half, he couldn't move, and he gutted it out. And then the second half, he looked a little bit more mobile. I mean, they had some design QB runs for him. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing running him? He can't stand up. But they were able to get enough with him, and then, you know, the adrenaline starts taking over. You know how that goes over the course of the game, and you start to get closer. And, yeah, how many times have we seen Ole Miss get in this spot and falter? Even last year. Last year, they go into halftime with the lead over Georgia, and then Georgia comes out and flexes their muscle in the second half and blows them out. So many times we see an Ole Miss team historically not be able to get it done in a big spot. They were tonight.
Yeah, look, I'm not a proponent of coming on set and saying a player stinks or a player needs to get benched or a player or a coach needs to get fired. And I'm sure Carson Beck is a fine young man. Emory, Richard, he stinks right now.
They are not.
I mean, he stinks to high heaven. 12 picks in 6 games. This is not the quarterback that plays at Georgia. This is a quarterback that's trying to find his way. He's lost. He's on the sideline, and I know a lot of people make a big deal about this, smiling with his teammates. Like, and I get it. This is college football. You're not being paid at the level of the professionals, but you're getting paid right now. And you see guys smiling and you're down 18 points, that sends a bad message. That just doesn't look like you care. And the fact that he's the underproducing, this is Georgia's quarterback. This isn't Kent State's quarterback. This is Georgia's quarterback. This is a problem for Kirby Smart because this ties the fewest amount of points in a game under Kirby Smart. And the time they scored 10, they won in a game 3 years ago. It's at Clemson. It's 10-3. So this is a major problem for Georgia. They don't look like the team that we expect them to look like. They don't look like a team that's worthy of getting invited to the college football playoff.
Well, I'll throw this question out here, and I want both you guys' answer because.
But am I wrong saying he stinks?
Because here I'm about to lead you.
Because I'm not trying to be mean and be an a-hole about it, but he stinks right now.
I'm gonna lead you right to where you're going. Now we understand why Stetson Bennett beat out the 5-star twice.
Well, Gunnar Stockton's sitting there.
You know, so maybe it is time to see if you can get a spark somewhere else because Stetson Bennett, we was wondering, how could Stetson Bennett start twice over Carson Beck, and who everyone was talking about as the first-round #1 overall pick, and we haven't seen that at all in any iteration.
Coming into this season, you'd known what you had with Carson Beck, or at least you thought you did.
Yeah, but remember him in the Alabama game, though? Remember in the Alabama game, what he did and helping them in the second half? And we said, this is a guy.
But in the first half, you saw what you had been pointing to.
Right, correct. They had us in the first half. That's me. They had us in I'm not going to lie. They had us in the first half. But he showed some confidence. He showed poise in that game. Since that moment, it's as if he forgot who he was. It's as if he forgot how to play quarterback in the SEC.
He is clearly pressing. I believe they said it on the broadcast that they were talking to him during the week, and he said, you know, I'm treating 1st and 10 like 4th and 2. And that's the mindset.
That's not a good thing to do. Emory, you know that. Come on.
He's feeling the pressure. And let me tell you this. Georgia's defense isn't so good that they're able to bail him out, right? Georgia's defense still really good, but not good enough to bail them out. The Georgia's defense, I don't think, is good enough for Georgia's offense to spend all game finding it, right? When those national championship years, you could take all afternoon to find it, and eventually it was going to click. But they don't have the gear this year. And, you know, you want to say, oh, they're the new Alabama. Didn't happen in Alabama. Alabama rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled. It was a consistency. And Georgia, yes, been great the last few years, but tapering off, falling off. All right, now, Tennessee is the next game they play.
That's an elimination game.
We'll see.
And here's the thing about the quarterback play. Opposing teams can smell when your quarterback doesn't have the juice. They smell blood in the water. And we saw Ole Miss, and we've seen this across the country. When teams start to figure out that your quarterback doesn't handle pressure well, guess what's about to happen? Pressure's about to happen. They're about to send blitz. They're about to feign blitz. They're about to increase the pressure of the moment. The fans are about to get into it. And here's the thing. When you have a Carson Beck and you're supposed to be that guy in the NFL draft, these are the moments where you're supposed to supersede what's going on the field. And spinning it back to Ole Miss's defense, 2.2 yards a carry against Georgia's run game, and they forced 3 turnovers. That's just getting beat down, out-physicaled, and you had no answers. And we've seen this, not to bring another team into the fold, but you see a Colorado fight through all this adversity with their quarterback getting beat down, but they always feel like they have a chance. You could see Georgia's offense legitimately looking like we are out of this game, even when they were down 6 points.
I'm not going to try to go down a rabbit hole. Shedeur Sanders has more talent than Carson Beck. That we will all agree on that.
Oh, there was an NFL draft analyst on this network that said that, like, multiple years, time and time again.
Who is that? Who is that?
Right. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's why he can bail himself out, where Carson Beck cannot. All right, Jackson Dart and Ole Miss. This is, Richard, give us some perspective here, because this is what Lane Kiffin had been trending toward, a win like this for the program.
But I don't know if they've been trending toward it, Hakeem, because they've been giving up.
Maybe not say the word trending. This is what they were building towards. They were fighting for this.
Yes.
This is what they were trying to become, to beat a Georgia, to beat an Alabama. This is what they wanted to do.
Yeah, the standard is the standard, baby, and they just beat the standard. Effectively, they just blew the standard out at home, and now those Fighting Florida Gators on QB3 and Mississippi State at the end of the season cruising into the SEC championship game. First ever SEC championship game should they get there for Ole Miss. This is massive. And for Lane Kiffin, how about just like a career arc for Lane Kiffin, right? Raiders, Tennessee, USC, and then finally he gets to this Ole Miss team, and they're, they spend all this money in the portal, and they say, hey, you're the portal king, Lane. All right, brother, go do it. We're going to give you all the talent you need, all the guys you need. There's going to be no excuses for you. And they loaded this roster up, particularly along the defensive front. What do we know about football in the SEC, Emory? It is one in the trenches. It is one up front, and they won this game up front tonight.
Beat Georgia down up front in the trenches, beat them at their own game. I was just impressed. This is the most impressive win in
Texas. Texas was not able to do this against this Georgia team.
And it is crazy because when you talk about Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, we usually are talking about Ole Miss's expectations coming into the season. We didn't expect much from Ole Miss.
Where was this Ole Miss team against Kentucky?
Where was this Ole Miss team?
Where is that?
Against LSU.
Right, exactly.
I get that, but that was a really good game. But against Kentucky at home, come on, what are we doing here?
So they go out there and knock out Georgia. And what was so beautiful to watch this about Ole Miss, it was the fact that it was pouring down raining.
Yes.
Georgia had all the excuses of dropping passes, the offense a little sloppy. Ole Miss was out there on offense like it was 75 degrees on great Bermuda grass. They didn't care it was raining. They was like, we smell blood in the water, and we go and take what's ours. And they got it.
They did. Their first win against a team ranked in the top 3 of the college football playoff poll as Ole Miss knocks off Georgia. They don't just win by a couple points. They beat them by 18. And as you take a look at this, I mentioned this, Georgia had won 52 straight games against teams not named Alabama. Well, they just lost to a team named Ole Miss. They only scored 10 points in this game. It's their first loss against a team not named Alabama since 2020 when they lost to Florida.